Oh, so you need to get in. Did I put you into one that didn't work? What I got to get my phone because I've got a. Okay, here we go. Let's. What do you? That's it. ID number. And this is for the fall or the summer? The fall. Oh, okay, so I've got one in for 341. And the one that you want to get into is 343 and won't let you. Did you take 340? But you have taken 301 and you'll be done with 301 and 310. But, okay. Okay, so we will. One extra one. If it doesn't, just write me an email. Tell me what the, if you get one more error message, tell me what the error message is. And you get, figure out what else might need to be. Yeah, I didn't call you yesterday. See, that's the big problem. I had a friend, Oscar. And so one time I made the mistake of calling Carlos because there's only one extra letter in there. And it was a hard thing to quit calling him Carlos all the time. Oh, well. Everybody take the first day of spring off or what? Everybody but you? 6. Break stuff. Unless you want to. Go. How are you? Hello. How are you? Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started just because we can. And we need to. And I would like to see homework with the new handout, right? It was number, oh, wait a minute. It was actually, I guess there was 3 things. It was C and the home and the handout. Okay, got it. Email and how about the, you didn't do the C, okay, make it 28. So there, yep. Come on. I'm behind it because that's where all the room is. Got them? There you go. Got them. You and Kendrick call each other and say, I'm going to skip class today. There you go. Retro girl. Oh. Oh man, look at that. In colors. You're good. In colors. How did I miss you? All right, we're getting close to finishing up syntax. We're going to finish up syntax next time. Today we're going to work on a few more trees. Look over the ones that you did and throw those together, make sure everybody's feeling good about them. We're going to look at sentences that can be answered at least once. We're going to do a couple of those. And then we're going to look at conjunctions. We're going to look at what we might want to, what we have to do, and we've got to add fanboys. Okay? So that's kind of today's. We're going to talk about the last few exercises that you do today. We'll go over on Thursday. We're going to talk about a couple of areas that not going to be super important to you, but probably wonder, well, we keep doing all these simple sentences. What happens when we've got complicated sentences? Well, we've got questions. We're going to talk about that stuff on Thursday. That will wrap up syntax. Next week, we're going to jump into semantics. So there's a reading, as I recall, for Thursday. That's that Lubin article. It's out on D2L, very short actually. Talks about how syntax can impact your students. And for Tuesday, there's probably the first 2/3 of chapter 3 on semantics. Okay, but that one's in the syllabus anyway. So here, the homework today is I sent you exercise 3 for sentence 3 in email yesterday. So you want to send me that, or you want to bring that in. Then the Lubin article, which is under additional reading, very short. And then the other thing I want you to remember is part 3 of the term project is going to be due a week from Thursday. So you've got you got about a week and a half to get that one done. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And don't hesitate to call me if you've got questions. I see people need to call me. They don't call me. So, if you're particularly we get into syntax, you may want to ask some questions. Please feel free to call me. Get home. All right, so here's the homework for Thursday. The new handout and email and reading that article. Next week we'll get ready to start reading about semantics. What is semantics? That's when everybody sits around and goes, and that's not important, and they just call it, oh, that's just semantics. Right? You've heard people say that. Oh, don't get into the semantics. That's just fun. Actually, since semantics is the science of meaning and truth, it's far more important to just say, oh, that's just semantics. It's kind of like the basis of everything. So that's what we're going to do. I'll remind you that we have been talking about these phrase structure trees. And basically, most recently, we've been tying those to sentences so that we can analyze how sentences are and what they mean. And the most important thing I want you to walk away from is when you think about these sentences, the hierarchical arrangement of phrases and constituents, not just a line of words. A line of words doesn't really apply very much. Finally, we've been through all of these several times and took that little quiz on Thursday. It wasn't graded. Just stood in for your homework. And I want you to make sure that you're feeling good about these because there will be questions on the final, like they were in that quiz yesterday or Thursday, where I'm going to give you a phrase structure rule that's incorrect and expect you to fix it. Okay? All right. So with that in mind, On and go ahead and do the phrase structure trees for the simple sentences as we've been looking at them. Hit the B when it's in presentation mode, it goes to a blank screen. And you don't want that to cost you thousands of dollars to find that out. Did I not get this? I got it from everybody who's got them, right? Now, first things first, let's talk about part 3 of the project. And the first part of the project was phonetics and phonology. Second part was which was sound focused. Morphology was word level focused. How did we form words? How did your speaker form them? Did we use derivational morphemes or did we use inflectional morphemes? I think generally speaking, they were pretty good. There are a couple things though that I saw as errors. One, compound words is not what I was looking for in terms of derivational or inflectional morphemes. Remember, these morphemes are prefixes and suffixes that are not, in that particular use, words in and of themselves, but they're attached to a base. Compounds, which was in the last section, was something that I wanted to look at very specifically, where we take 2 full morphemes or 2 full words and we put them together. Sometimes, as many of you wrote, open compounds where it was 2 words that were still separated. Sometimes it's with words that are hyphenated. And sometimes they're compound words the way we all learned about them in grade school, where we take a whole word and another whole word and we put them together, like fire and truck, etc. This time, we're now getting ready to look at syntax. And so I want to go through this and make sure that we don't cross over into the other realms, the phonology, phonetics one and the morphology one, because that seems to be a common problem when people doing this one. Okay? So first off, what we're going to do is I want you to go in there and you're going to find me some syntax issues. Now, syntax issues, the way I look at it for this assignment, are a couple of different things. One of those would be word order issues, like they put adjectives after the nouns they modify. That would be a word order problem. Or if they put the verb in front of the subject in a declarative sentence, most of the time that would be a syntax error. It's not the way we would say it, right? Those are probably the 2 big. Oh, that's the first biggie. The second biggie is wrong word choice. Okay, so I usually take that wrong word choice and say they just flat out used the wrong word. They used an A when they should have used a the, or they used a the when they shouldn't have used anything. That would be a word choice issue. Also, you might get completely wrong words in there, where the words that came out just have nothing to do with it. Would be a typical thing that an English language learner might do by plunking in just the wrong word. So those would be the biggies, okay? Word order and wrong word choice. Now, one thing I do want you to recognize is the things, and I mentioned this before when we were talking about morphology, words like wanna and gonna are not really wrong. We use them all the time, right? I want to do this, I'm going to do that. We say that much more often than I want to, or I am going to. In common language and common speech, which is gonna and wanna are everywhere. Same thing for contractions. If somebody uses don't or doesn't or won't, and they use it correctly, that is not a syntax issue. That is them talking like all of the rest of us who speak English well, right? I mean, it's not a discrepancy. It's not an error of any kind. So don't bring up those. Now, I will say that there are some times when morphological errors could be considered syntax issues, okay?
And so, for instance, this is in the middle of that second paragraph. On occasion, morphological errors might be considered syntax issues, but only if they are explained in syntax terms, pointing out a grammatical error. Now, what I mean by that is, if somebody should have said, somebody said yesterday, I walked to the store. Yesterday, I walked to the store. Well, there's a morphological problem there, right? They missed the ED ending. So in that particular case, that could be called a morphology issue. Missed the inflectional morpheme that needed to be there. If, on the other hand, you want to explain it as a grammatical error, I can accept it that way. So you would say, well, this was a syntax error or grammatical error because he should have put walk in the past tense. You've now described it not as a morphology problem, but as a syntax issue. Okay? You get the drift? Here's something that my wife does this all the time. She leaves off S's on plural words. Drives me absolutely nuts. Luckily, it's only a short ride to nuts for me, but Koreans do it all the time. They kind of use the plural in Korean if they want to, and they seem to leave it out half the time and just let everybody realize via context that it should have been plural. I don't know how you can live a language like that, but they do. They've been speaking it for 5,000 years, so I guess it's okay. They also don't use the, a, or an, which how can you have a language without those? But hey, they've been doing that for 5,000 years too. So what we always expect isn't what we're finding in other languages, but make sure, okay, if you want to pull out a morphology issue, what might be a morphology issue, missing plural, missing conjugation on a third person singular present verb. Great. It could have been called a morphology issue in part 2. You can call it a grammatical issue if you can explain it in grammatical terms, right? Or syntax terms. They used the wrong word if they didn't put an S on the end. Okay? Follow me? Okay. Now, so basically these kind of morpheme issues that generate a wrong word or wrong word form that messes up the grammar, those would be covered along with wrong word choice and wrong word order. Okay, now that's part 1. You're going to need to give me 5. What I've seen is a lot of people give me 6 or 7, hopefully 1 or 2. If 1 or 2 of them are wrong, you get enough points to get the whole thing. Other people give me 5, and there's a couple wrong ones in there, and then so you need to give me a minimum of 5. You give me 6 or 7, you just up your opportunities for a full 10, okay? Now, in part B, suggestions. You've now looked at morphemes, word form. You've looked at sounds. You've looked at sentence form in these 3 areas, phonology, morphology, and syntax. I want you to think about what you might tell this student, the guy from the Dominican Republic. What would you give him as suggestions to help him improve his English? And I want 4 suggestions. Each suggestion is probably about a paragraph, right? Don't tell me, and what you need to do is you need to make sure that you give me 4 specific suggestions. And so it's not going to be things like take an ESL class. Now, I get that a lot. Oh, you should take an ESL class. That covers all. That's not specific. Second issue that people tell me, I would tell him to practice third person singular verbs in the present tense so he learns how to use S. What's wrong with that? Okay, kinda. What's wrong with telling them to practice? It's not wrong. That's partly there, but there's a little more specific that you could be. I'm sorry. Well, Yeah, you could talk about a method, but if you just tell this person to practice. Exactly. If they aren't getting it right and you just tell them to practice by themselves, there's nothing at all going to indicate that they're suddenly going to start doing it right. Right? So we can't understand them or they don't make improvements. So how could you fix that on the practice front? What could you tell them instead?
Maybe you look at some reading.
Okay, maybe. That's one way. So you could go through and check out all of the third person singular verbs in a reading. That might help. What else can you tell them? Exactly. See, this is the one that seems to me to be the real simplest one is, yes, you need to practice, but you're not going to get better by practicing in front of the mirror because you're going to make mistakes, the same mistakes you've always been making. You need somebody there who will be able to work with you, recognize the errors and help you fix them. Okay. So practice is not a bad idea, but don't just tell me go practice. It needs to be practice what and practice how and practice with whom. And so that's a little bit more specific than go take an ESL class. And it's a heck of a lot better than saying, just practice this. Now, it doesn't have to be another adult. It could be a little kid. Little kids could actually help with pronunciation issues, actually, or even grammatical issues. They'll hear the difference. But that's the way to do it. So a short paragraph is all you need for each one of those four. And out of those four, you need to cover at least two of the three main areas. So something's probably going to be covered a couple times. Like you might have a couple of phonology suggestions, a morpheme suggestion, or two morphology. And then you've got the four, and you've covered two of the three areas. Okay. Occasionally, you may run into something here that is not really tied to any one of those three errors, but it's really incorrect. And it's not directly tied to these, but it's language related that you could also give them suggestions. Here's one for you, or for you. Here's one for you. And this would be my wife telling me if I was taking Korean as a second language. And it's not really a morpheme problem. It's not really a syntax problem. But it's things like not using the proper honorifics or the proper form that I would have to use to talk to her father. One time, second day I met him the day before. Then I get up in the morning and he asked me, "Ciao, ciao," which is essentially, "Did you sleep well?" I knew that much. Yep. And I turned to him and said, "Ciao, ciao," which you would think you just turn right around and ask them. Oh no. My wife about had a hemorrhage right there. She just like have a stroke because you don't talk to adults or you don't talk to people much older than you the way they talk to you. That's just not right. They had to come out like, I don't know, chumu soyo or something, which I didn't really know, but you gotta do it right. That'd be another place. So if you see something in there where the guy is saying things like he's way too formal or he's not formal enough, maybe that's another thing you'd want to talk to him about. That kind of covers what I looked for in part 3. And never tell your father-in-law, ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao, so that would be, you're not supposed to do that. Okay. Now you've learned all of the terrible emotional things like that. So it's a wonder I'm still alive. Okay, we're done with that. Questions? How many errors do you have to give me, and how many syntax errors? Okay, and how many suggestions do you have to make? 4. And practice is okay, right? Okay, with somebody who knows better than you do, right? He doesn't even have to be a native speaker necessarily. It just needs to be somebody who's got a good, strong English skill. And how many areas does it have to cover out of the 3? 2. Okay, we good? All right. Policing in minority community. I walked into a class one time, they left the notes on the board. It was the human sexuality course. And they had some really weird things on that board. Believe me. Why, that'd make me blush. Okay. So here we go. Let us begin with the exercise 2. And you probably noticed with exercise 2 that I kind of tried to set this up so that you can get a little bit right and then build on it each time, right? So the first thing we had was the thick smoke. And Diana, what did we do? Now phrase where? Yeah, where at? That's the phrase. What's the first thing we got to do? Label. There you go. That's what we got to do. So we're going to do that. Thick is a adjective. Smoke is a noun. And then we said, well, this we can see as an adjective phrase, right? And it's inside a noun phrase. Well, that covers that. What do we do with the rest? Huh? Put them on here, right? So we got just like that. So the thick smoke. Okay, now let's take this just one step further. The very thick smoke. Sebastian, what do we got? Do first step. Still, man, still on that. Now what? What are we gonna do? Okay. Okay, what's the noun phrase going to include? Huh? So it's going to basically include everything, right? If I do like this, that work? What does work? What should I do? What's the next thing? Okay. Just like that. Cool. Next. Where's the adjective? This is the, what's the word? I've lost it. Intensifier. Okay. That's what happens when you get old. So, well, we know that this has got to be a adjective phrase, right? Then what? Is it the complete adjective phrase? No. Okay. Yes, right. So we're going to go like this, right? Then we need to grab the adjective phrase because adverb phrases don't directly go into noun phrases. It's kind of an indirect thing. We do pick up the determiner. We do pick up the noun, right? All good. But this is kind of tricky here because we have an extra phrase inside that level that we need to call out. All right, fill the hallway. Lorraine, Lorraine, Lorraine. I think I'll just put them right here. Fill the hallway. Step 1. Okay. Is it like this? No, you don't think so? Me neither. Cool. So what is it? What do we have to do? just like this. Okay, anything else? Then what do? Cooling out. So just like that, right? Okay, so now we've got this noun phrase, the very thick smoke. And then we've got the verb phrase, filled, and then the filled has a noun phrase in it. So we need to call that out, all right? Not just go directly to those parts. And then, Mandy, we now have a sentence. How are we going to show this sentence with these two?
Combine the noun phrase and the verb phrase with they come together.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a sentence.
Working with an S, right? Okay. So you can see this, basically what we've got is once we've got these basic phrase structures down, we can see how they line up in the individual trees built into phrases that are a little bit higher. Later on, we won't do it. We're not going to mess with clauses this semester, but we could have clauses that these go into, and then we can roll up into full sentences. We've done that with this one. Let's take another one. What's the next one? The book. Oh, cool. We'll just go here. The book. Ariana, you got the easy one.
First of all, each word.
Okay.
So the is the subject and then the book is the noun.
Yeah.
And then you just connect them together and they'll make them noun.
Cool enough. Just like that, right? Nothing to it. Now, let's take another one. This one's a little different. The perplexed student. Jen?
And then now, and that all together, the students with the outfit
Okay. What about this here?
that actually, can you draw a line in the middle and put that with it?
Like that? Because we want to call out the phrases that are in there. And remember, that is an adjective, and we can have one word phrases all over the place. And then, as you mentioned, we grab this, right? NP. Am I right? Everybody agree? You got to tell me if I do it wrong, because I get in a hurry and I do it wrong. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry? No, you don't need to label students by itself as a noun phrase, because it's not the noun phrase by itself. It just happens to be a noun. Right? You see the difference? Great. How about this one? No, let's see. We're just going to go in here and do this. In TESL 301. They always say, hey, make your exercises relevant to your students. You guys in TESL 301, has this made it relevant to you? Sure it has. Okay, Isabel, what do we do? Yeah, yeah.
So that's the noun phrase.
Okay, great. Yes, you're right. That is. Now, the difference here is we put noun phrase in there because, and it is a full phrase, noun phrase, right? And then what do we do?
Like it's an in, which is
Which noun phrase? The first one, right? Great. Now, you may remember, I want you to kind of remember this as you'll see me do it. It's going to be hard for me to draw a line that actually shows downward. So what did I say we had to do if we run into a situation where this is at the same level or higher than its parent. Draw an arrow which way? Yes, there you go. So if you end up doing something like that, I can live with that on the test, right? I don't want you to throw paper away and have to start all over. It needs to be lower, but if it isn't for some reason, draw an arrow to the one that should be lower, okay? And then we've got this, read the book. Read the book. Once again, being relevant to my students. Right? Okay. What do we do? Verb. Determiner, yep. Noun. Now here, this one's pretty easy, right? We already did the book over there. Did it change? Same thing, right? Still a noun phrase. However, now we've got that thing. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, which way? Okay, what am I going to do with this? Okay. Now when we come down here. Okay, Lupe, you got another easy one, I think. Yep, read the book. We got that. The perplexed students in 3E, TESL 301 read the book. What do we do? Yep, we got to make the sentence. What are the two connections? I'll give you this one. Now, what do we do with that one? Right, we don't do a prepositional phrase here, right? We would go over here. This is the other part of the sentence. Right, so the perplexed students we started with in TESL 301 got added to it. We took this, the books we started with, read. Now we've got everything we need for a sentence. Cool? We good? All right, so now we're going to jump into a few of these simple guys that we're not going to build up step by step. And we're just going to take these sentences. These are now going to be the ones that were in exercise C, number 2. Okay, Arpod, you're living the charmed life. You got the easy ones here. Run. That's all you need, right? That's a full sentence, right? Nothing wrong with it. I mean, we don't need to have anything else there. That's all we really need. Okay, syntax. Once again, relevant is fun. Minutes. Christina. I used to call you Electro Girl from now on. Maybe if I do that, I will quit making a mistake. Cynthia, Electro Girl from here forward. Yep. Look for your grades in your report as the Electro Girl. But okay. Now, syntax is fun. What are you going to do? Okay. You didn't sound very convinced. It is a verb. Okay, go. Is it? Did anybody else think of anything else there? I don't think it would be a verb. Adjective is fine. There's one other thing it might be. Kelly? Huh? Okay. It's okay. Adjective phrase is correct, but it could also be a noun. Fun started off as a noun, then it's also an adjective. And if you're a hillbilly and you go around saying things like, I'm just funning you, well, fun could also be a verb, but not too many people talk like that, right? You ever heard anybody in Chicago ever say, I'm just a funning you? Because you haven't lived in the right place, buddy. Okay, well, we're going to call that an adjective. And so what do?
Is one number two.
Oh. So you captured both parts, yes.
And then
Just a noun phrase. All right, I think that's all there is to it, right? Not too tough. I mean, it's just take it step by step every time. Think your way through it. I got one last one on this page. Jerry threw the ball. Galley. Yeah. Next. Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah, like that. I don't do for sign language. Said. All right. Not all that tough, right? I mean, we could get real complicated. We could get real sticky and ugly on these, but this is not all that bad, right? You'll be in good shape on the test. I'm going to move a little bit further, make it a little more difficult in two spots. The first of those spots is ambiguity. Everybody know what ambiguity is? No? Okay. What is ambiguity?
It's kind of unknown.
Kind of unknown. That's a good start. That's a good way to put it. But there's in this particular case, there's a reason why it's unknown. Anybody? Okay, you're not sure what the meaning is. That's good. So we might have something that is unknown. We don't know the meaning because there are multiple meanings. Very good. So yes. Now, ambiguous is essentially we don't know. And we also are looking at usually it seems like there's more than one wrong answer. I mean, sorry, more than one right answer. So that's ambiguous. Let's take a look at these. We looked at these the other day, last week. We had some ambiguous phrases, like the French language teacher. Remember her? Was it a French person who was a language teacher? Or is it a teacher who teaches the French language? They're different, right? We saw that actually we could draw trees that would look different. Well, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to draw full sentences, though. And again, this is going to be something that'll be on the test. I'm sure that I will put one question about drawing an ambiguous sentence. And what I'm going to do when I do that is I'm going to ask you to do two, well, maybe three things. First, you have to paraphrase it for the first meaning. Okay. Paraphrase it means put it in your own words to make it clear what you're really talking about. And then draw a tree to match that paraphrase. And then you're going to have to paraphrase it, the other possibility, and draw a tree to match that. So we're going to do that right here. I've got 3 examples. The dog bit the man without teeth. He chased the man with the car, and he works with old men and women. Right? You can probably see, if you give it some thought, you'll see the difference in the potential meanings. So let's take the first one. The dog bit the man without teeth. I got a dog named Rufus. He's 14 years old. He has lost a whole bunch of teeth. So my dog could bite you without teeth. Be kind of like gumming you. Okay? He'd gum you to death. All right. Got it? So tell me a paraphrase for this. The dog bit the man without teeth. Give me one meaning. Wonderful. Okay, great. So we're going to do that. Let's get in here and we're going to say the dog bit the man without teeth. And the paraphrase is the man had no teeth. A toothless dude. Toothless dude. Yeah. That's really kind of going wild with my paraphrase, but the idea is the man doesn't have any teeth. So what would we do? Well, let's see. Give us one. Selma, I think we left off with Galley. So what's our first step here? I can't hear you. Okay, so what are we going to do first? We're going to go in and label the noun, but we're also going to label the verbs and the adjectives and the determiners. So we're going to go in and label all the parts of speech. So if we were to do that, D-N, bit, B for verb, because it is a verb. The is another D. Man is a noun. Without. Without. Huh? Yeah, it's going to be a PP. So this is a preposition. And teeth is a. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're talking about the man had no teeth. So we know that this is going to be a noun phrase. This is going to be a prepositional phrase, right? Over here, we've got something similar going on. We've got a D and we've got a noun. So this is going to be another noun phrase. Am I right? The man. And I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit, go up here, grab the B, the VP, and change that to bit. Who did he bite? Who did the dog bite? See, working my way back up here. Oh, Lorraine. The toothless man, or in this case, the man without teeth, right? Very good. So we know he's going to do this one. The big question is, what is this guy? Well, this is describing the man, right? Because you said it's the toothless guy. So we end up drawing that way. And then we've got a noun phrase that looks like that. And it all becomes a sentence, right? Now, I'm going to write this thing right. Questions? Just stretching, no stretching allowed. The dog bit the man without How would we paraphrase this one? That one worked great because it was real simple. We just have a man with no teeth. What do we have on this side, Arpad? The dog has no teeth, right? Great. So nonetheless, we still have all of the same words, right? D, N, V, D, N, D, N. We still have a prepositional, I guess I should put NP in there. Oh, I did. Oh, I'm better than I thought. Okay. It's always good to wake up and be better than you thought. Next. Okay, now we've got the man again. Well, we had the man over there. Still have a noun phrase. But what's different? At this point, we have this idea with the toothless dog. And so this is no longer describing the man, right? The man's probably got teeth. It's the dog without teeth. So about the only way we can deal with that is we got to go up here and do a VP. And he still bit the man. But in this case, he bit the man without using teeth, right? The idea there is, in this particular case, without teeth is describing the verb bit. In this case, without teeth was describing the man. If that's true, then we can't draw this to here. That would give us the wrong meaning. We'd have to come in here and basically say without teeth is describing the verb. We still have an NP here. We still have the whole sentence there. The point I want you to see is this kind of stuff happens when we're talking to people all the time. You have to stop and say, well, do you mean this or did you mean that? Here's an example of how that works. Okay? So what you're going to do in these cases is you've got to look to see which things group together, which things describe other things. Here, we're describing the action of the verb, so we connect it to the verb. Here, we're describing the man, so we have to connect it to the man. I'm going to stop. What if the dog he bit him with his lips? Same thing. He still bit him, still describing how he bit him. So I could go up and bite you like, the dog probably have a difficult time pulling that off, but I could do it because I'm a human. I walk on 2 legs, not 4. I got the big brain. Do you see what I mean? It would still be talking about how he bit him. He bit him with his lips as opposed to with teeth. Sure. What's this? Let's just put this with lips. If I did with lips there, everything would be exactly the same. Because it's still describing the verb bit. And I bit you with my lips. Not like it would ever happen, but we live in a fantastic world. I think our own fantasies. I forgot to do C. We're going to have to go back and do C. We did forget the C. Oh, well, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, you have the idea. I'm going to stop. I really, if you don't understand, stop me so we can kind of talk about it a little further. Yep, this didn't change. I mean, it's still a preposition with a noun in it. So that noun phrase becomes a part of the prepositional phrase. Always, it's basically the same thing on both of them. The only difference is what is the phrase, the prepositional phrase without teeth, what is it describing? The action of the verb, in which case it connects to the verb phrase. Or does it connect to the man because it's describing which man?
So going back to like gently biting versus the dog is nice and toothless.
Okay.
If it's gently biting, would you connect that to the first noun phrase? Or no, if it's a toothless dog, you connect that to the noun phrase.
Which noun phrase?
The dog.
If I want to put the word gently in there?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
but
Let's-
not if you want to put the word gently. You want to for the meaning itself to be gentle.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Watch what we would do. Let's take out the word without teeth. All right? Or take out with lips. We're gonna take this out of here and we're gonna put in the word gently. The dog bit the man gently. Is that what?
Yeah.
What kind of a word? And what is adverb doing? So I've got an adverb phrase here. Does it describe the man? Doesn't, right? Because adverbs don't describe a noun, the verb, right? So essentially it's the same thing. Interesting you should ask that question. Because the prepositional phrase without teeth over here was a prepositional phrase, but it was acting much like an adverb, right? Because it was describing how the verb was done, was basically acting like an adverb of manner. Now we could put in an adverb of manner and basically it stays the same. Because gently here has nothing to do with describing the man, it's describing this. But over here, without teeth, it's talking about the man without teeth. Therefore, we connected it to this note as opposed to. Okay. Kind of a silly sentence, but nonetheless, you can kind of get the idea that, all right. Well, I used to do the monkey climbed the ladder without feet. Because ladders have feet, monkeys have feet. One is he climbed a ladder that didn't have feet. The other one was he climbed using his tail. Or his hands. Anyway, got to come up with crappy sentences. They come up in real life. All right. Let's finish this off here. What's the next? You can't read it. All right. He chased the man with the car. He chased the man with the car. Lupe, how would I, give me a paraphrase for he chased the man with the car. Yeah. 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 True. Preposition. Okay, but here's the question. This can have two possible meanings. Do you see the two meanings? Okay, what's one of the meanings? Yeah, okay, so one of the ways we could do it is he chased the man using a car. He is using a car. That he right there, right? And the other one you said was, somehow can we make this man here be the one with the car? And we can, right? So let's go over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and write it in here. He chased. He Probably would be better if I said John or something, but anyway, he used the car to chase. And over here, we've got another one where he chased the man with the car. In this case, man has the car. Okay, do you see the two differences? In one case, he uses a car to chase somebody. And in the other one, we don't know what he used, but he chased the person who had a car. Right? So basically what ends up happening is with the car, this one and this one is the thing that gives us a little bit of trouble. So in one case, we've got over here, the man has the car, so it's going to be that group. But over here, he had the car. He, right? And so this is all that we're going to have. So you've already given me all of these. So we had a noun, verb, be, noun, he, and. Much like the other one, we're going to have a noun phrase and a prepositional phrase. Same thing over here. Noun phrase, prepositional phrase. No difference. The question is, does this belong together? Or does it belong basically by itself? Over here, we're going to say the noun phrase is the man, and this is describing the man, so it connects to the noun phrase. Over here, it is not describing the man, so it's going to be a noun phrase in here, and it is describing chase. So we're going to have to pick this BP. BP, he chased whom? The man. How? With the car. Over here, with the car is describing the man. So we still have a VP, and he still chased the man, but now we know which man, the man with the car. And then if nothing else, NP. And that's, yes. Catch the feel for it? You can look at these. Sometimes you'll see there's two possible meanings when I don't. I was looking at one of my examples for something else, and I go, I guess we could go two ways with that. So maybe you'll see it later and call it out to me for using a bad example. Questions? If I connect it to the verb phrase, that prepositional phrase is doing what? It's a bit. No, if I connect it to the verb phrase, yeah, well, like this guy. If I connect with the car to the verb phrase, what does that mean? Yes, but it's actually not talking about he so much as it's talking about how he chased. He didn't chase him on a bicycle, didn't chase him on foot, didn't chase him with a skateboard. He chased him with the car. He used the car to do it. So it's basically saying, how did he chase? Over here, we connected it to the noun phrase because it describes the man. I'm going to do something weird here. I'm going to change the homework assignment. Slightly. when you look at the assignment, and I don't know if I brought it. Did somebody bring the printed version? I think, yes, not the article, so this one here. Great. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change the homework. And I want you to do 6.2. When I talked about doing this whole sheet, I want you to do 6.2 only. Don't do 6.3. We're going to save 6.3 for the next time because I'm not going to get to conjunctions today. So what I want you to do here is just do 6.2, exercise 6.2 on this sheet. Okay? And then we will talk about conjunctions on Thursday along with the other stuff we have to wind down. But the way I want to finish the class then is I don't want to leave this undone. I do want to make sure we go through these. So this is the stuff from C, part 2. I don't know where I left off. Who wants to go? Gally looked up, so it must be her. Watch out what you do in play. Stretch your hand like that, and I'll think you're being called on, right, Gally? All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to go in here. We want to go with D, N, B, P, E, N. Where do you want to start? Okay. Okay. All right, we good? Everybody's got that one? Now, I'm going to just say this. I hope it doesn't confuse anybody. When a moment ago I was talking about, you have to look and see what some of these things are describing. Are they describing the noun in front of them, or are they describing the verb? When this one says they laughed at the clown, are they describing the children, or are they describing what they were laughing about? It's talking about laughing because it's connected into the verb phrase. So basically, it's talking about why they were laughing, which is another adverb function, but nonetheless, this is talking about how they laughed or why they laughed. So it's connected right there. I also mentioned to you last week, we could never have it to the children and kind of come across like that. You can't cross lines, right? We talked about that last week. So that's how that one goes. Haste makes waste. Selma, you want to give this one a shot? Yep. Very good. So if I take this, I know that this is a noun phrase by itself, right? This one is too. Then I got this verb phrase. What do I do? Not quite. We don't want to connect the two noun phrases yet because we've got a verb phrase in between. So what do from here to here, right? Because makes what? Makes ways. This noun phrase can stand by itself. Haste. This is makes. So the verb phrase, you're right, starts with the verb, but it also picks up the thing that's it's talking about. Makes what? Makes waste. So therefore, this one becomes pretty straightforward. That's the way we want to make sure. So you don't want to connect both of the noun phrases across a verb. You want to get that verb phrase all complete and the noun phrase in front of it all complete, and then connect those two as a sentence. A very small package arrived. Oh, this is going to be kind of interesting. A very small package arrived. Cynthia, since I'm stuck in the back row, what do you got? Yeah. No. Adverb, small, adjective, package, noun, and arrived, verb. This one's going to look a lot different than some of the others we drew, aren't it? So what are we going to start over here? This is the verb. I got a verb phrase, right? Do we have a one-word verb phrase? Super. What are we going to do over here? Yes. Very good. Okay, great. Like that. Right? And then we can grab this A because it's a determiner, right? And then we've got a sentence. Notice nothing's over here. We don't have to have extra stuff behind the arrive. It doesn't have to be there. We may just have a verb, just like fish swim, deer run. In this case, a package arrived. We could even make that shorter and just say it arrived. And it would be a perfectly good sentence, right? 2 words, it arrived. Okay, and a meteor hit that red car. Last one of the day. Hey, let's see. A meteor hit that red car. R5. Good. All right, that takes care of C. Sorry, I should have done that earlier. Now, we've got the homework done. I'm going to make a small change to the PowerPoint before I leave today. So you may want to hold off on downloading the PowerPoint, because in there I'm just going to say do whatever that first one was. Okay. And then we'll do the coordinating conjunctions on Thursday. Questions? Answers? Difficulties? Complaints? I can't think of another noun. Exaggerations? Okay, no? All right. So I hope you guys have a good one. We will come back in here and finish up our syntax section on Thursday and launch into semantics on Tuesday. Did I do something wrong? I know that I do that.
They're like used to it.
I know. There is it can be. I mean, there are other ones. There are other ways we can do this next week. No, I'm sorry, on Thursday. I'm going to show you where we have an ambiguous sentence. It's built a little bit differently. But you're absolutely right. The only difference in both of these was without this prepositional phrase. Does it describe the verb or does it describe the noun? And that same question happens to be the same thing with another prepositional phrase down here. And you may remember I said last Thursday, I think we had the example, John shot the man with a gun.
Yeah.
Same thing. With a gun, does it describe how he shot him or does it describe which man he shot? So
So it's not always.
it's not always to be the same, but very frequently you're going to see something like this and go, okay. And you may find it written up in a different form, but yep, the pattern is exactly that. Oh, Selma. Oh, there you go. Did you have the homework?